thing in a GMP where you do an open book and you say, you know what, I'm going to let you have the GMP, but if you've got profits in here, I want a piece of those. So, you know, you might say, look, I'll let you keep the lion's share, but I want 30% of the profits from your GMP. Now, how does a contractor make money? He makes money in a lot of different ways.
Let me count the ways.
I don't want to know all the ways, but they have a fee. So that fee is typically, I'm going to say 4 to 5%. Okay, I'm going to call it 5. Okay, they can make money on what are called general conditions.
Or general requirements.
Okay, okay. General conditions, or what are general conditions or requirements? That's the overhead on a job. Okay, I got to put a construction trailer here. I got to put a project manager here. I got to haul garbage out. I got to put the internet. I got to put a phone line. You know, whatever. So they're going to say the general conditions are X. Well, they're going to build a profit into that number. Okay, and they might tell you the PM costs me so much per hour, but he actually costs less than that. Or you might say my overhead on that employee is X, but it's really Y, a lower number. Okay, so they can make money on general conditions. Okay,
6%. That's typical.
Okay, so they can make money when they buy a job out under a GMP. So they're going to go out there. A client's going to give them, you know, some specs. They're going to give a guaranteed maximum price. And, you know, how are they going to do it? They're going to be calling a bunch of subs. When the work's actually awarded to them, then they're going to go to the subs and say, okay, now I really got the job. That number's not good enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I really want to give it to you, but Jose Pablo's a lot cheaper than you. Okay, so they're going to make money, and hence the profit sharing agreements in the open book, because the owners don't want to get stiffed here. They want part of that savings passed on to them. Okay. They're also going to make money in change orders. They shouldn't make money on change orders. That's probably where they make the most money.
Hopefully
okay, and that is they're already on site. There's, you know, field conditions dictate something. You can't go to anybody else. You got to buy it from this guy. This guy's got to do the job, and you know what? He's going to charge you whatever he charges you.
It could be owner changes too.
Sorry?
It could be owner changes too.
It could be owner changes, you know, but you're there, you're stuck, okay? You're stuck. All right, so that's how a contractor can make money.
Can you explain how he's sharing in the savings one more time, quickly?
If I negotiate with him.
So you give a guaranteed maximum price to Alec. You're the GC. You tell him it's going to cost 100. Okay, when you go and buy the job out, because you use these techniques, you really wound up buying it for 90.
We
okay?
split the 10.
So you actually just saved 10 there over the budget. Well, the owner, if you've got this cost sharing agreement, the owner's going to say, I want to see your book. I want an open book. I want to audit your accounts.
Yeah, exactly. So like as an investor / owner, how do you like?
Well, you negotiate an open book contract, and you look for a cost sharing or a cost savings agreement. Now, you can't be a pig. You can't say I want 100% of the profits, because then you're not incentivizing the guy to do anything.
Negotiate for you.
So what's normal? Going half?
I would
60,
tell you
40.
No, less than half.
60,
An owner's going to get max 40%. I would tell you.
Yep.
20, 30. You got to leave the lion's share with the contractor. Otherwise, he's not incentivized to negotiate and shop it. Okay.
Do you see that in residential?
Yep.
Like even like
I don't know. I don't
like rehabs.
No, not so much.
But it might make sense because it's a lot like it's very like it's like behind the curtain almost. Like, you know, they're just quoting you whatever. Like walk in, one guy will tell you roof is 12,000, another guy will say it's 6,000, you know, whatever.
Yeah, and so, you know, what's important is to always deal with, you might pay a little bit more, but deal with people that are honest and you know they're going to be there tomorrow. And I remember we had a problem with a roof on a building, and a roofer was bankrupt. I mean, it just had a regional company, it went bankrupt, so we called them up, it was under warranty, and the guy said, look, we can void this because we're in bankruptcy, but they're like, we value your business. They came in and fixed it. It was a couple $100,000 worth of work. Those are people you want to do business with, right? So you may pay a little bit more, but you're going to be in business longer, okay? There's a lot of fly-by-nights in the industry. Two last thing on contractors. Contractors can do what are called design-build arrangements. So that's where they function as both the developer and the contractor. So they will not only build a building, but they'll hire the architect and the engineers, and they'll do everything for you. And typically they'll work for a 10% fee. So you're basically going to take the development fee and their GC fee and roll it into one. Okay, there's some companies out there that specialize in doing that. And the last thing I was going to say is contractors have what are called contractor or mechanic lien rights on assets that they're working on. Okay, so I'm a contractor. I'm building your house. I have a right to lien your house if you don't pay me. Okay, so this is a very convoluted process. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but here's the bank, here's the general contractor, and here's the owner. Okay, you've got to go through. So the bank issues a commitment letter to the owner saying they're going to fund the construction. So this guy sends an invoice. I'm going to give you a typical hypothetical period. This guy gets invoices on the 15th of the month from all his subs. Okay? On the 20th of the month, he sends his invoice down to the owner. The owner sends it to the bank, and they review it and get their people to inspect it on it. And then on the 25th, they cut the money here. And then on the 27th, you pay this guy, and on the 30th, he pays this guy. Okay? And what you're typically doing is when you're paying him, he's giving you a partial release on his lien rights for all the work he did before. So you're swapping. Okay? And if you don't trust that he's going to pay the subs, you give him a joint check. So the check's made out to him and to his sub. So that the sub gives him, at the time they swap the checks, his release, so he can give you his release. Okay?
And their insurances.
Oh, that's from the beginning. That's a good point.
Some of my clients are forgetting the last step.
Doing things that you have to.
Yeah, so the sub, yeah, that's why you need to get the subs released. If you pay the sub and he doesn't pay the sub and you didn't get a release from the sub, he can go against, he's got mechanic lien rights. Damn, yeah, that's the way it works. So
You get payment applications and stuff.
we're gonna work on a project this week that takes us full circle through. We're not going to go to hell and back, okay? We're not going to go to hell and back. We're not going to go to hell and back.
It's just going to take you 3 hours to walk out of it, though.
This is not going to take you 3 hours to do. I can promise you that. I promise you, you're not going to get this done in 3 hours.
So it's going to take longer?
Yeah, of course, you're going to have all week to do it.
Oh, good God.
So, listen, because I'm going to forget to say this. This is an individual project. I expect individual work. I don't want to see things that look like one another. And it's very easy to, it's very, very easy to find that. Okay, so if you've got questions, reach out to me. I want to give you the only little caveat. I am traveling part of this week. And I'm going to a board meeting. When I'm in a board meeting, I cannot review people's spreadsheets and I can't answer questions. I'm just not online. So take advantage of tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday, where I'm happy to spend as much time. Send me all your questions, send me your partial work. I'm even going to send you, what I'm going to go over right now, I'm going to send it to you, but not as a spreadsheet. I'm going to send it to you in PDF, so you've got something to follow. Okay? We're going to walk through it. There's a video that walks through it. We're going to walk through it now. Okay?
What does it do?
It's development budget. I'm going to walk you through it. It's a development. You want to build a building?
When is it due? Like
Oh, when is it due? Okay, so you'll be able to work on it. You can finish it in class next Saturday. I'm not going to have any additional material. Okay? I don't think I'm going to be able to do the waterfall during the week. If I can, I will. And then I'll make that available if you're finished. But you can work during the week, and you can finish it in class. Okay? I wanted to, there's one last thing I put together that I wanted to,
Wait, we only have one class left?
Yeah, can you believe it?
No, this is the last one.
No, seems like a lot of.
I thought this was.
Work pending
Yeah,
for one
I
class.
think you get the dates messed up.
When it gets interesting, right? The fun part.
Next class, we should probably bring some of this stuff to the front.
Is this completely different than any of the other models?
That's not right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Brain
Oh,
now.
It's kind of funny.
What?
She's thinking the same thing.
No, she's not. She's cleaning, dude.
Oh, it depends.
She's a wild child.
How's your job? How's your job that you're applying to? How's the job you were applying to? Feel that.
So,
Some hairy
I
ideas.
guys, I took this is a real life industrial building that we had built some years ago. What I did is that people talk about an S curve, and really at the end of the day, what you're looking for is to try to find a way to model the cash flows involved with construction and development. Okay? This is a particular construction of a building that happened in 2006, 2007, and it's a monthly timeline. It's a Pareto chart, and it has sort of cost today, okay, and then costs per month. So this is with land. I'm going to show it to you without land because the land sort of skews this a little bit. Hold on. What was the question?
You typically put the line in or out?
No.
Hey, listen, what's important, Alec, what's important is that you understand when the cash flows hit, okay? What's important is that you look when the cash flows hit. So, whatever helps you figure that out and model it is what you do. So, you're building up to 100%, but you can see, this is like a 1-year construction period with some stabilization, and you can see that very quickly, boom, you ramp up, okay? Okay? You very quickly in construction spend the dollars, early on, okay? And then it sort of dribs and drabs. You see it, I'm looking at the new clubhouse at the yacht club in Key Biscayne. It's been built for 6 months and it's still not done. You know, the shell's there, it looks like it's all done, and it's still 3 months away. Okay, and it's all little dribs and drabs, right? The big pieces that cost the concrete, the steel, okay, the glass, all that stuff that costs a lot of money comes up front. And then all the interior finishes and all that, you know, take a little bit of time to do, okay? So, that was just something I wanted to show you. Now, before I show you what we're going to do, I want to show you a couple of sort of like real life development budgets. Now, this is kind of an interesting perspective. We sold our company to another company, and we used to model things one way, and the other company that bought us modeled things a different way. So I got the same model built by 2 different underwriting teams for the same building, have totally different results and totally different look, okay? But the concepts are the same. And these are real life buildings. This is building 28 at Beacon Center. Sorry, at Beacon Station, okay? And so you're going to see that there are multiple tabs, okay? And it's all in Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to make it bigger. I've used some of, you know, the same sort of concept, okay? But, you know, general information, okay? They got a whole bunch of conditional statements based on what happens here. It feeds different tabs, okay? But ultimately, hold on. So there's some assumptions that they use for calculating all of their development costs, okay? So they've got a database, or they're calling their subcontractors or their service providers. How much is the architect going to charge me? How much is the engineer going to charge me? I should know, you know, when I look down here, how much, you know, my permit should be, my impact fee should be, etc. Okay? I'm going to get some estimates from my contractor. But ultimately, so there's a rent-up deficit period. Okay, so there's a period. I'm not going to show you a different way, but so there's a period in which you're staging all the different tenants into a building. So it's a stabilization period. Okay? And ultimately, you're going to get to a stabilized period, okay? Everybody calls it something different, okay? They call it yearly summary, but this looks a lot like we've been doing, right? So there's a bunch of, information here, but basically you've got rents, you've got expenses, okay? You've got debt service, and you've got cash flow, okay? So with this, you can model an exit anytime you want and calculate your IRR. Okay, so that's the way our guys used to do it in Coral Gables. The guys up in Jacksonville that bought us used to do it like this. Now this is a lot more complicated, okay? And I've tried to simplify this a little bit, right? So these people had like a gazillion tabs if you looked out here. And ultimately they got to, they looked at pre-tax and after-tax. It was not a tax-efficient structure, okay? So they had to be concerned with after-tax returns. So they were looking at IRR. They're looking at 3 years and 10 years. We were looking at 5. It's like just, everybody had a totally different, mentality and perspective, okay? But ultimately they worked to a return profile so that when you go to an investment committee, the question's going to be, is that an acceptable IRR, okay? So we think we can exit at these cap rates. Is this an acceptable IRR pre-tax? Is this an acceptable IRR after tax? Or not?
No.
Okay? Well, listen, we built these buildings, and we built them on a speculative basis, and we built them without any tenants, and we built them against my yelling. And they sat empty for 4 years. It was building 28 and 29. I was long gone. I was long gone. This is 2007. They started building them in 2008. Or this was 2006. They started building it in 2007. And they sat empty for 4 years. But whatever. So this is the critical, this is like the assumptions on the other one. This is their way of gathering. This is the input sheet with all the development costs, all the land and construction and A&E and legal and marketing and TI and leasing commissions and everything that goes in is summarized on this page. Now, there's 2 processes in building a development budget. Gathering the costs, number 1, and number 2 is spreading it out over a timeline. Okay? And that's what that S-curve helps us with. That's what our own judgment helps us with. 2 processes. Gather the costs, spread it out over time, so that you can, so let's say you can do an IRR, and so that you can figure out, bless you, and so that you can figure out in a particular month where you got to get the cash from. Okay? And the bank and your partners are going to want to look at this stuff. Okay? So, yes?
What's with the dollar sign?
I didn't do this. And these people didn't work for me at the time.
Otherwise it would have been.
No.
That's a lot better. Please don't
No, so listen, but, so, they've got an area for costs, they got all kinds of junk, okay? They got all kinds of junk, okay? But ultimately, what's important is there's a project summary, there's an annual cash flow. Now, these guys only worked, okay? They only worked in Argus, okay? So they only worked, and this is an Excel dump from Argus, but you can see Argus, all they did is they modeled everything in Argus. Just like we did everything in Excel, they did everything in Argus. Okay? So now, I want to give you, I want to close the loop on this because I want to show you this, okay? I want to show you this because you're not going to have to do this, but I want you to at least be exposed to it, okay? There's a couple of things I want to show you, okay? This is what an invoice from a contractor looks like. If you want to see it, okay? And this is like a real invoice, okay? So GCs tend to, if you ask them to, tend to bill you on a standard AIA form. It's G702. The backup is on another AIA form, G703. Okay, but typically what they're doing is it's a paper monster. They're getting all the subs invoices in. They're adding their fee to it. They're putting a package together and sending it to you on the 15th, right? So you can process it, okay?
Insurance, right?
Yeah, and then you can see that this has gazillions of, things behind it, okay? Because everybody, all the subs are doing their G703 going to the GC, okay? And then he's sort of gathering everything. Just to close the loop, we used to do, those of you, none of you.
Yeah, it is not a problem.
Did you take the accounting class with me, Miriam?
Yeah.
But you didn't do the development case study. I was too soft by that point. This is from a case study that students used to have to do.
I think there was an accounting class in the real estate.
It's not anymore,
It was called real estate accounting.
because he was a teacher.
Okay, so what happens is, and I'm going to blow this up so you can see it. So what happens is, here's the process. You do a budget. You get capital. Everything gets approved. You buy the building. You hire a contractor. You hire a bunch of architects and engineers. And now you're the PM. You start getting all these invoices. And now you got to get money to pay these people. So I just kind of drew the circle with the bank, right? Okay? But you got to do the same exact circle for all the costs that are involved that the bank doesn't cover. Okay? So, just like you're doing this cycle, you need your architect, your engineer, your surveyor, any other service provider that you have to send you invoices. You're gathering them, and then you're doing a funding draw to your partners, to your owners, to that 95 and 5 guy every month, so they can feed you, so you can pay off the people that are working, okay? Inasmuch as there is a very standard process with construction companies to bill their clients, there's no structured process for clients to get funded by banks. And we used to just put a letter together. And when I started teaching, 10 years ago, and I was putting this particular case study together, I called a bunch of friends of mine who are lenders, and they said, no, we just people just send us a letter with a request. They make sure that the 702 is there, and that's it. So I kind of put together like a package. What would a package look like that you would send to a bank to get reimbursed, right? So, you've got an office budget, so I'm going to send you the budget that you approved. I'm going to send you my draw request, and I'm going to send you the contractor's application for payment, okay, so that you can fund me, okay? And what do those things look like, okay? So this was, again, this is from a case study, but this was based on an office building that we built, okay? So this is a development budget, very simple. Okay, it doesn't matter. Very simple development budget for a 3-story office building. It was actually our office building, okay? But, your A&E, your construction, your contingencies, all of the impact fees, all of the other soft costs that we have, okay? Some financing. Someone asked the question, what is a commitment fee? Construction loans, loans typically have commitment fees. So banks earn money in 2 ways. On loans, they charge interest, and there's a spread for them, right? They borrow money from you and I at a certain rate, and then they put the money out, and then they also earn fees. And one of the fees they typically make is they charge a commitment fee on loans. So you go to the bank and you say, I want a loan. They give you a term sheet. The term sheet says, we're willing to work with you under these general guidelines. Then you say, okay, I like it. But I need a commitment. I need to marry you. So they'll issue a formal commitment letter. That commitment letter says, we will make you a loan under these conditions. And we'll go to the lawyer and we'll draft an agreement with these conditions. Now they're committed at that point. They're legally bound to fund. You got to pay them a fee at that point. And they want that in cash up front. So you can't finance that. They're not going to roll that into a revolver. They're not going to roll it into a loan. You got to pay them up front, okay? So that's what a commitment fee is, okay? And this very simply is a uses and sources statement, okay? So this was an approved budget. This This is my request for funding, okay? Original budget, transfers that I can make within line items. Most budgets allow you to transfer line items as long as you don't exceed the budget, okay? How much did I incur today? And then in this particular case, I've got a contractor's invoice, okay? The contractor's asking for $1,023,000, and that's basically what I'm going to ask the bank for. And then to support that, I'm going to have my G702 from the, make it a little bit smaller, from the general contractor, okay? And he's asking for his $1,023,000. Something I forgot is another way to protect yourself. So typically when you work with a contractor, you retain part of the payments. There's something called retainage. Okay, so that's negotiated. I'll tell you a rule of thumb coming out of the box is you would pay a contractor 90% of what his billings are, and you retain 10%. You may have a lower amount. You typically exclude materials from that because any materials that are billed to you need to be paid by the contractor to a third party. Okay? But the way you protect it is you pay him, but you're holding some money back to make sure that he's incentivized and has money to finish work when it's time to go through the punch list and finish out the things that he has to complete. Okay, so and they're progressive invoices. So you build 123 the next month. You still have the total amount, but you say billings to date less previous billings, and you work back to what the billing is for the month. Okay. So, we're not going to do this, but I wanted you to see how that process flowed so that you know that a little bit better. So,
Is that what we're getting?
yeah, this is what you're going to get. We're going to walk through it. I mean, we got at least 20 minutes of class. Okay. I'm gonna go through the tabs that I'm suggesting that you use to build. Okay. I'm gonna go through the different tabs. I've got two assumption tabs. Okay. And then I'm gonna come all the way back here. I've got my construction. I'm gonna walk through each one of these. I've got my construction, okay? I've got my development costs. Then I've got my 3 different periods that we talked about. My development cash flow period, my stabilization period, and then my stabilized period, okay? And here's where I can actually then pull things together, okay? But let's just start with my inputs, okay? I'll make this just, well, I'm not going to make it any smaller, so I'm just going to kind of go through. I've tried to build, I built this yesterday from 11 to 5, the whole thing. Now, I cut and paste from different tools that we have, okay? Guys, there's a video here. You know what I always find interesting? I'm sorry to say this. I love seeing on Instagram all the people at concerts that are looking at an artist, and all you see is everybody's phone up, filming people, and I'm wondering, are people listening to the music and enjoying the vibes? Or are they just worried we're telling the whole world that I'm here?
This is very small. We won't be able to see.
You're gonna get the video, and you're gonna get this in a PDF. So if you want to take the picture, that's fine, but listen, because that's the problem is if we're worried about what's in the cell, we don't learn the flow. Listen to the flow. Okay? So, general project information, okay? Building, I've got a development timeline here. Do I need a loan for construction? Do I need a loan for permanent financing? What's that telling me? It's telling me that I got to build these into the models, okay? Is it speculative? Is it for lease? Okay? How many acres am I buying? What's the size of the building? How many usable rentable square feet do we have? What's the coverage? Now, it's FAR here because it's an industrial building and it's single story, so the FAR is going to be like the coverage. If we're a multiple story, the FAR will be different than the coverage, okay? How much does the land cost? What are the development fees? What are the construction management fees? What are the construction and development contingencies that I need to build? So we always like to carry contingencies and budgets. What's a contingency? Dollars that you set aside in case there's a problem. So, should we carry 20% contingencies in our projects? We may want to, but then the budgets aren't going to make any sense. So, we try to carry a contingency for hard costs, because things can happen in construction, and we try to carry a contingency for soft costs. If time permits, Alex, there's a video on this, so you don't need to be sitting there filming this stuff. Does the soft cost contingency build on the hard cost contingency? If your budget can carry it, yes. If your budget can't carry it, no. So you're going to carry as much contingency as your budget allows. Hard cost contingency is your contingency as an owner. It's not the contractor's contingency. So you don't tell the contractor, yeah, I'm giving you 5% budget overrun. You carry it in case you need it. He doesn't need to know that. You don't need, that's on your books, it's on your budget, it's not on his budget. Okay?
What about the bank?
Well, the bank's going to allow you to have some sort of, and they're going to require some sort of contingency, okay?
But is that discussed, divulged?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're going to give them the whole budget, and they're the ones that are going to approve that budget, or they're going to approve a loan on a particular budget, and they're going to expect that there is some sort of contingency there, okay? There's a series of assumptions related to the revenue stream. What's the market rent? Is it gross or net? So what's the structure? What are the leasing commissions? Are there any rent abatements? I didn't have any here. What's my leasing velocity? I made this case very simple. We're leasing 25% of the building every quarter. What does that tell you? Over a 1-year period, we're going to fully stabilize the building, okay? So I built a 1-year development period and a 1-year stabilization period just to make it simple, okay? The leases are all 120 months, so they're going to carry out for 10 years. I've got structural vacancy of 2.5%. Even though the building's fully leased, I want to carry something for, oops, credit losses, you know, something. And when somebody buys a building from you, they're not going to underwrite 100% occupancy. They're going to discount it somehow, okay? What's inflation? How much of my tenant improvements per foot? How much of the industrial space is covered by office, right? So, $10 a square foot for 10% of the space being office, okay? Then I've got some financial inputs. So, none of these are new to you. We've needed these in order to get revenues. The financial inputs are the ones that we've been using in order to figure out how much of a loan, right? How much do we sell this at, etc. The debt is now broken out into 2 different periods. I've got a construction period, and I've got a permanent financing period. Okay? They've got different rates. They've got different rates. Okay? The permanent's 10-year treasury plus 200 bips. My construction is 2-year LIBOR plus 275 bips. Okay? But I just, interest-only amortization, amortization over 30 years, 1% commitment fee. It is a construction to mini permanent. So there's no additional fees because I've already paid them up here. Okay? Trying to make things easy, but understand that if you're transitioning in a development budget from a pure construction loan to pure permanent financing, you're going to have fees for both and closing costs for both. And you may have commitment fees for both. Okay? And then a sale. How long am I going to hold it? Okay? What percentage of costs am I going to have? And at what cap rate should I sell it? So, this is all the same information that we've been using. I've just taken it out of the cash flow and put it in one logical place. Could feed a variety of different sheets. Could you do it all in one sheet? Yes, it's going to be very difficult to navigate from one to another. Okay? I could have, I don't know why I didn't, but when I built the operating expense and capital expenditure assumptions, I did it on another tab. I could have just put it with the general information. So you don't need to have two information tabs. You can have one, you can have 5. It doesn't matter. But there's a section in the book that has to have inputs. Okay? So I'm sending you a sample with 2. Okay? But there needs to be an area where you've got inputs. Now, where do you go from there? I like to build from the back forward at that point. Okay? Now I need to get a construction budget. That's the most important thing. I've got an architect going. They've given me some schematics. I got some elevations. But the most important thing is I got a contractor that knows me, that I know, that's built buildings for me before, and I'm going to say to him, I know the plans, but I'm buying 10 acres and I'm putting a $200,000 industrial box. What's it going to cost? So he's going to give you, well, he's not going to give you it depends, because then I'm going to go to the next guy. Because if he tells me it depends, so a good contractor, the one I'm going to hire, you know what the answer to that is? I'm going to give you the answer so you get hired in life. Here's the answer. Three guys go job interview. And the boss says to one, they're interviewing with the boss. The guy says, I need a CFO. What's 2 plus 2? It says,
Whatever he needs it to be.
well, the first guy said, you're insulting me. I'm not going to work for a guy that's that dumb. He walks out. The next guy, there is also a video, Alex, that we post on YouTube, right? Okay? The next guy goes, what's 2 plus 2? Man, it's 4. And the last guy says, what's 2 plus 2? And the guy says, whatever you want it to be. Okay? That's the guy got hired. So no, I didn't say you got an A. You got that answer right. Okay? So, but the contractor's he's going to give you something. He's going to give you something. Okay? What's he going to give you? He's going to give you schedule of values. Okay? Now, let me blow this up first. He's going to give you schedule of values. Okay? So he's going to take all of his major line items and he's going to spread it out. Okay? So he knows, he's got his database. He's been doing these buildings forever. He knows what he's got to mobilize on a site. Okay? And this is all going to be backed up. So much for a trailer, so much for the phone line, so much for a PM, so much for an assistant PM, so much for, a project accountant, whatever. He's going to have a bunch of spreadsheets behind this that give him this. Okay? His estimating group lives this stuff day to day. Okay? And then, work on down. Site work, concrete, your metals, woods and plastics, your thermal and your moisture protection, right? Doors, windows, interiors, specialties, and your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Okay? So, he's going to tell you, it's going to cost $10 million to do this. Almost 11. Oh, and by the way, you got to pay me 5% to do that. Okay? So he's going to tell you, it's going to cost $11 million to do it, okay? 11.5. Notice I made a nice, easy number. Now, if he's really nice, he then is going to say, listen, if you give me 9 months to do this, and you're going to muck around and you let me start April 1st, this is how I think I'm going to be billing you. Now, how did I do this? I used a little bit of, my own. That's where your own personal criteria and judgment goes in. General conditions. Well, they're not going to change month to month, so I'm just going to divide those by the number of months out there. I'm going to do site work before I start going with concrete and metals, right? I'm not going to do doors and interiors until I got all this stuff done. So, hopefully, you've got enough experience, but they're going to help you through this. And they're going to tell you, you know what, this is how we see this budget playing out over a 9-month period. And you can then calculate your curve. You can figure out how much each month, and you can figure out how much cumulatively. Okay? Now you can take these percentages, add your contingency to this, and now you can populate your sources and uses statement. Now you've got you know, 60–70% of your development costs here already modeled. And what we want to get to is we want to get to the equivalent of that purchase price. Okay? So, step number 1, get your schedule of values, get the estimate from the contractor, and map it out. Now you got to build your development budget. Now, your development budget, I went ahead and used a format very similar to what the folks up at Flagler in Jacksonville used to do. Okay? Okay? So, I start gathering my buckets. Land, that was one of the inputs. You know, I even put it up here just so that we've got it all in one page, okay? Okay? How many acres, how much per acre, how much per square foot, so I can figure out my land. I've got my database. I've got a database. I'll give you this. I've got a database, okay, of all of my expenses. And so ultimately now I'm coming up with an estimate of what it's going to cost me to build this building. Okay? Notice we're going through all of the different line items. Land and preparation, design, construction, okay, financing, insurance, and legal, and then my stabilization period items, right? My TI and my commissions, okay? And then my fees and my contingency, okay? I've added a contingency to the construction numbers. I've added a contingency to the project overall. Now, I got to do the same thing. I got to overlay what the construction company gave me with all the other costs. Okay? Now I got to use my judgment, right? So, I did something very similar to what the construction company gave me. I went ahead, I'm not going to go through all of it, but I went ahead and mapped out for each one of the months, okay, what I thought I was going to be spending. I know the land comes in day 1, okay, and I know I got all my construction. Now, I didn't lay out the construction here. I went ahead to the development cash flow, because these two tabs are just accumulating data. I'm not cash flowing until I got the development cash flow, okay? So this is all going to flow with the construction dollars to my development budget, okay? I got assumptions, and then I start getting inputs from my contractor and from all my other service providers, okay? And then I just went, okay, the land, but if I look at this building costs 30 million bucks. This building costs 30 million bucks, 150 bucks a foot, okay? Roughly 150 bucks a foot. But I know 11 and 12 is 23. $23 million are very easy to schedule out. The contractor gave me one in the land, which is the other big component. I know I'm getting day 1. So the rest, just use your judgment. You know, and what I just did here is I said, okay, well, you know what? I got to start paying the service providers to do the work because I know I'm starting construction here. So I got to get all my plans done. I got to pay all my fees. And I just kind of use that logic, okay? Now, on video 11, we want, sorry? Yeah, it's a lot. It's what we're in a development program.
But at the end of the day, our numbers look exactly as you're saying, because we're using our judgment in terms of where we allocated the money.
So your IRR might be different, right?
Yeah.
But your cost should be different.
Right.
If I give you the inputs, which I just got to hit send to the email. If I give you the inputs, we shouldn't have any difference on costs.
Well, maybe like if I said, well, maybe I paid for a door something, maybe I paid for a window something, would those differ?
No, because I'm going to tell you what you're going to pay for a door and for a window.
Oh, okay.
You may have different judgment as to when you pay for it,
Right, that's what
so
I'm
that
saying.
might impact your cash flow, but it's not going to be material.
Right, so there might be things in different places, but at the end of the day, the purchase price should match.
There's no purchase price.
I mean
Your development costs,
the development
your development costs should be different.
shouldn't be different, right?
Okay, they shouldn't be different. Okay, now, this is a sources and uses statement. We saw this in video 11. Well, we already did a development building, okay? We characterized In a development budget, our revenues are cash inflows as sources, and our costs are expenditures as our outflows as uses. Okay? What are our uses here? We got to buy land, we got to pay for hard costs, and we got to pay for soft costs. What are my sources of funds? Well, I got to pay for financing, I got to pay for interest. What are my sources of funds? I got a bank loan,
Equity.
I got a revolver, and I got equity coming in.
What's revolver?
The interest reserve.
57, you know?
The interest reserve to pay the interest that the bank on the money that the bank is loaning me. Okay? So I gotta buy land, I gotta pay my hard costs, I gotta pay my soft costs, and I gotta pay my financing. Where do these numbers come from? The land and the soft costs come from the development cost summary. I just spread it out. The hard costs, where do they come from? They come from the development cost summary multiplied by the timeline which the contractor gave me, because I'm not using his dollars, I'm using his dollars plus the contingency. Okay? What are my sources? My bank loan. My bank loan is going to pay for 50% of my land and all of my construction costs.
Are you only sending assumptions or are you sending every tab in a PDF?
He's not selling.
I want to send you everything, but you can ask me questions like, how do you calculate interest?
Yeah,
Cumulative
I like
interest
something to follow on.
That's why I'm giving you that, okay? So, bank loan provides for half of my land and all of my construction.
And then we're gonna do the debt service too.
So construction loans don't have debt service, they're interest only. That's why I went through this before. Construction loans are interest only. And how do we pay for the interest?
Revolver.
With the interest revolver or
That's not
with
a
the
gun.
interest reserve from the bank.
It's not a gun.
So, we borrow money. We gotta build this little schedule down
Oh,
here.
that schedule table. is what
We
I'm saying.
borrowed money from the bank,
Right.
okay, we borrowed money from the bank, and now I gotta pay interest on that, okay? I pay interest, I pay interest. Where do I get the interest from?
The interest revolver.
Exactly, okay? So we realize that at the end of the day, we borrowed the 17,520,000, which is all of my, half of my land, 5 million bucks, and all of my construction. 5 plus 12 is 17. And I incurred $1 million worth of interest.
Is the revolver another loan?
Yes.
It's
Tacked into the.
they're together, they're tagged in, okay? And then you can, and then when you roll over into a construction loan, into a permanent loan, you roll both of them in, okay? And then you can solve for the equity that you need every month. So now you know you're gonna need $11 million worth of equity. What's my loan to cost? 62%. You know, that's gonna be good. Now, we still have 2 more quick tabs to do.
Just two.
So now we've got a stabilization period, right? So okay. So during the stabilization period, I only have 2 things coming in. I've already accounted for TI and leasing commissions in the development period. So all I'm going to account for is rental income and operating expenses. Rental income and operating expenses. What do? I build a rental income schedule, okay? Every quarter, I start a new lease, okay? I've got $208,000 worth of annual income, okay? And this is how it's going to roll in, so much every month. And then I have my operating expenses, okay? That was part of the inputs. I have the operating expenses. I've got a 200,000 square foot building. These are the monthly expenses, okay? So it's $50,000 a month, $600,000 a year, $3 times 200, $600,000 a year.
We didn't grow
Okay.
these by inflation in this model?
Sorry?
We didn't grow these by inflation in this model?
Not in this model, we did not.
Okay.
Could we? We could, but this is only 1 year. This is year 1.
Okay.
So stabilization period is, by definition, first year, year 1. So they're not.
Okay.
Okay, now, here's where it all starts. So this is,
I have several questions.
okay, I'll stay as long as you want after, but let me just finish this because this is exactly what we've been doing. This is our statement of cash flows. This is nothing different than what we've done. And this is exactly what we did right now. So, if you go to this cell says, and I'm going to point to it, you're going to go there, it's my rent times 12 months, now I'm in year 2 because I had a year of stabilization, I'm going to grow this 3%.
Oh, okay.
So that's my revenues. I can do quick and dirty here. I don't have to build all these leases. So I know that my annual rental income is $208,000 the first year. I've got 3% inflation, okay? All right? And this is a monthly income. I need to make it annual. So if I get rid of this, the model disappears, right? If I get rid of this, my model blows up. I don't want my model to blow up, okay? So your rental income, okay? Vacancy, the 2.5% that we talked about, okay? And then the expenses are coming over from, we just did the expenses, right? They were the $600,000, which have been inflated by 3%, because now I'm in year 2 of my model. So, this is my model. This is my model, okay? So, you're going to say, well, what else do I have to do? Well, I just have to account for the money that I spent. I just have to account, instead of purchasing a building, I paid some money along the way. I borrowed some money and I paid some money. Right? So that's why I hid these columns. Because all I do here is create an additional line that says development period flows. And I pull from this tab and this tab for my development period flow tab. I pull these dollars, and from my stabilization period, I pull these dollars, and now I've got a cash flow that I can do an IRR on. Okay, I can revert and I can do an IRR. So the only other nuance that we have here is I've gotten rid here. I've compacted this. This is the assumptions on financing. I don't need to look at unlevered views because it doesn't matter. I only care about levered. The only thing that I've got a theoretical loan, a 60%, but I actually borrowed an exact amount on my development budget. So I'm going to point to my actual amount, okay? My actual loan amount. And then I'm going to do a resale schedule. Okay, I've got my resale schedule, I got my debt service schedule, okay, pointing to the actual loan, not the theoretical loan, okay, what I rolled from the construction into the mini permanent, okay, I've got my IRR, okay, and I've got some proofs here. My NOI is growing 3% a year, that's what my stabilization is. I started here in the 3rd year. Development, stabilization, first year stabilized. I started at 1250 in the stabilization. My rates are actually 1278 and 309. So it looks like the model's built right. My debt service coverage ratio, it looks like I can meet without any problem. Okay? So if I want to hold this just to say something for 5 years, okay, I can just come over here. My hold period is 5 years. I can just come over here and say, okay, well, my IRR is 12.51%. And I didn't put any data tables, and why didn't I put any data tables? Because the minute you start going to multiple tabs, forget it, okay? That's it. I'll stay as long as anybody wants to.
Are we gonna send this,
What do we have to do? No way I have to.
That's a screenshot, I'm gonna send you.
What do we have to actually do?